This is one of my favorite stories in the Gospel of Mark, and it always moves me. I think these two things in it just really impact me. The first one is like the persistence and desperation of Bartimaeus, that he just ignores the people that tell him to be quiet and continues to cry out. And the second part is the sensitivity or the attention of Jesus, that over the noise, over the people trying to quiet him, he hears Bartimaeus, cuts through all the noise and says, "Call him, I want to see him." So here's how it goes in the gospel. Bartimaeus finds out it's Jesus who is coming, and so where he is, blind, poor, begging, he cries out, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." He cries out for salvation, and immediately, like we read, he's rebuked, and the people around him tell him to be quiet. And to his credit, he calls out all the more, "Son of David, have pity on me." This story has a happy ending. Like it's really uplifting and encouraging, gives us hope. But just imagine it in a different way. What if those who silenced him were successful? What if he got so discouraged that he didn't call out anymore? What if ultimately he wasn't heard by Jesus? Jesus didn't hear him. What if the ending of the story was, and so he stopped crying out, and so Jesus didn't hear him, and Jesus walked by him, and they continued on their way? That is just tragic. That would be terrible. But Jesus does hear him, and so he calls him. And it's Jesus. He is the one that interrupts the normal course of event. Without his decision, call him, it would have ended like that. So, you know that I was on retreat this last week, Monday through Saturday, part of Saturday. And when you go on retreat, you're just by yourself. It's quiet, solitude, spend a little more time in nature. There's stillness. And it always takes me a few days to slow down, like 2, maybe 3, because I'm still wound up from rushing and my mind is running around thinking about all sorts of things. So as I'm sitting in prayer, I just feel pretty grumpy, actually, and restless. And I'm just itching to do something productive. And you can't, because there's nothing to do. You're just there. So in like the awkwardness where I'm like, I don't really want to be sitting here praying. I don't really feel up to, I want to move. I want to do things. I'm just kind of yammering, okay? I'm talking to the Lord, so that's a good thing. But I'm just going on because I'm restless, so I'm filling up the silence. It's good that I'm telling him what's on my mind, but it's just like all these problems, all these thoughts that I have, all this stuff. And so Jesus makes me pause, and he says, "Do you notice that?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, no, just ignore that. I always tell that to be quiet, okay? You can just ignore it." Anyway, what I was telling you about, and he says, "Stop, listen, I hear pain." And I tell him, "Ignore that. That thing's always complaining. I'll get it quiet. I do this every day." And Jesus says, "That's your heart. Bring it to me." As you read this gospel, maybe you can find yourself in it, but strangely enough, where I found myself was I was the one rebuking Bartimaeus and telling him to be quiet. Those are the villains in the story. We all have parts of ourselves that are troublesome or annoying or unruly that we're always silencing and shoving back down. And it usually is the heart. Because the heart is troublesome, isn't it? It can be torturous sometimes. We know the importance of the heart. Like when you receive an affirmation, when somebody tells you that you're smart or capable, that's great. But when someone tells you that you are good, when someone tells you that you have a good heart, that is what we long for. We want things to be heartfelt. We want to do things wholeheartedly. We've experienced before heartache or our hearts have been broken, and there is no pain like this. So the heart certainly can cause us trouble. But if we neglect the heart, then we lose our ability to love and to receive love. So, when you go on retreat or any other time of the day, of the year, when there's no phone, no social media, no TV, no music, no talking, no somebody else to distract you, no productivity, nothing like that. When we do this, it's not to punish and it's not to starve. It's to quiet for listening, to allow the voice of the poor beggar, that is the heart, to be heard, that is quietly pulsing in love or in pain or in anything else. So this is just as a little application, this is why churches are quiet, why we try not to rush, why silence at Mass is not like a void, but is like a rich meal. It's so that our hearts may speak, our hearts may cry out, and our hearts may sing their quiet song of love and joy to God.